everybody, my name is Codline2339, welcome back to another video. Today, in this one, I'll be doing another tier list video, and in this one, I'll be doing it on board breakers post Valiant Smashers. Yeah, so that's kind of the huge debate at the moment in the Yu-Gi-Oh community for this format is, do you go board breakers or do you go hand traps? If you want my opinion, I think a good mix of both could be fine. I don't think going one way or the other way is correct. If you just go in the middle, couple hand traps, couple board breakers, I think that is correct. If you want to know my opinions on the hand traps, I made a tier list before this video. I'll put it in the link in the description down below if you want to watch that. But yeah, without further ado, let's get straight into the video. So first thing we're going to start off with here is triple tactics thrust. It's the reason why we have to start off with this straight away is because this decides a lot of what the board breakers are doing, because most of the board breakers can be searched off triple tactic thrust, so making it more copies of board breakers just because of triple tactic thrust. I think it's going to go in some main decks. A lot of people, it could be in most side decks as well. It's in between here. It's a very dumb card. I can see some people just main decking. I don't think it's in most main decks, but in some main decks for sure this card is going to be in here. This card, absolutely insane. Like, it's one of the best cards in Yu-Gi-Oh right now. There's a reason why this card is super expensive. But yeah, so I'm gonna put it this first just because this decides a lot what a lot of the other board breakers are going to be at. So triple tactic thrust, very good card. Now let's start off with Alpha, the Master of Beast. I think it's niche. Like, it's not the worst. Like, if you're like a budget player, then like Alpha is like actually pretty decent for you because it's a pretty cheap board breaker. But there are just better cards. Pankratops is better. Fenrir is absolutely better than this card. But Alpha is pretty cool as well. I just don't think it's the best. I was going to put it in niche. I'm not going to put it in just don't, because I do think the card is cool. But I think I'm just going to put it in niche for now. The book cards are next up. So this is how I'm going to do it. I'm going to put Book of Eclipse here. I'm going to put Book. Okay, we'll come back to Book, and then Book of Lunar, just don't. So we're going to start off with Book of Eclipse first. Again, this is a most likely just a side deck option. I don't think you're going to main deck this. This card is good, but the problem with Book of Eclipse is it can be Ash Blossom, which is the unfortunate part about it, but it is a very good board breaker in my opinion. But I feel like there's just so many other board breakers in this format where it's kind of been relegated to like the side deck and stuff like that. Book of Moon, this is the weird one. I still think Book of Moon is very good, but not that many people are playing it right now. The problem with it is either you're main decking it or you're just not playing it at all, right? Because if you're going to side deck it, you're just going to put Book of Eclipse in the side deck instead, right? So the Book of Moon is kind of the problem, right? So if you're going to play it, you're probably going to be main decking it. But if you're going to side deck it, it's just better to side deck a Lunar Eclipse instead of Book of Moon, right? So I truly don't know where to put this exactly at is the problem. I'll put it in like the bottom of most side decks. I don't know. This card is good. It is super good. It's just in a weird place right now, I feel like, in this format. But I do, in my opinion, I do think Book of Eclipse is better. And then Book of Lunar Eclipse is not that great. It really is not that great. The other book cards are better, and this requires a discard as well. So just play Book of Eclipse instead. It's just better. So just don't with the Book of Eclipse. You know what? I'm gonna put this in some main decks just because. I don't know. Book of Moon's in a weird position. I truly don't know where to exactly put it, but it is a good card. So it's either going to be in some main decks or you're just not going to be playing it at all. So I'm going to put it in some main decks. Change of Heart. This is going to be in some side decks. I'm not going to say it's going to be in all side decks, but in some side decks it will be in there. This is, again, really takes advantage of something like Thrust being legal as well at 3. So basically meaning you have 4 copies of Change of Heart, which is absolutely insane, right? But the problem with Change of Heart is sometimes just taking a monster isn't, impactful against like the rescue matchup. The back row is more going to be the problem in that matchup than, their monsters are going to be. So you need to break through the back row, not, through the monsters. And I think that's where the format's kind of going right now. Or if it's like the Manadium or Infernoble matchup, it's like they're just going to have a negate for this anyway. So it's like, I don't know. It's cool. It's good. And it's nice to see that it's off. I'm going to put it in some side decks. It's a good card, but I don't think it's as great. Cosmic Cyclone. This is weird. It's actually kind of fallen off for other cards. I think Cosmic goes to some side decks. I think it's I don't think it's going to be in most people's side decks anymore. So Cosmic is cool because it's a quick play, and it does hit a couple matchups, like hits the Unchained matchup if you're scared of the back row. Same thing with like Tearlament as well. But if you're versing like the Lad matchup, like Cosmic just doesn't do quite enough because you're most likely going to have multiple as back row. Same thing with Rescue as well, is they're going to have multiple back row that you have to play through. So one Cosmic is probably not going to do enough to push through that. This is cool if like Runic was in format as well, but Runic has fallen off a lot as well. So this is in like some people's side deck. I don't think it's going to be in most. It's going to be in some people's side deck. Dark Hole. This is interesting. I'm going to put it in some side decks, I think. I'm going to put it above this. Yeah, we're going to do it like that. So Dark Hole, it's a good board breaker, just being able to wipe the monsters on the field. But the problem with Dark Hole that I'm seeing is there are decks like Unchained where you Dark Hole them and they're just going to plus a million off of it anyways, right? So I just don't think that's great. Same thing with like, again, if they have like an Omni negate up like Baron or something like that, you know, Dark Hole is just going to get negated anyway. So it just trades for a negate, right? So I don't know. It's cool. I just don't think it's the best. I think it's the best. Let me, where's Regeki at? If you compare Dark Hole to Regeki, I think Dark Hole is better than Regeki. I really do. I'll put Regeki in some side decks like at the bottom of it. I do think Dark Hole is better than Regeki. Why do I think that? It's just because, again, like I said, if you're playing Unchained, right, you can go like normal summon in Unchained, Dark Hole, wipe the field, and then you can plus off that Unchained, right? So I think Dark Hole is just a tad bit better than what Regeki is trying to do, because Regeki only hits the opponent while Dark Hole can hit both players, making it where you can plus off of it as well. So again, it's not the greatest in the world though. But I think it's okay to have. Dark Ruler No More is the interesting one. This is weird. Probably like in the most side decks. I'll probably put it like the bottom of most side decks, like maybe like creeping to the top of some side decks. The weird thing is because this is here for like Manadium and shit like that. Just like if you're versing a deck that shit ends on a shit ton of gates, right? Dark Ruler No More is kind of for that. But the problem with it is, one, if you're playing for Noble Knights, they have multiple ways to make sure Dark Ruler No More gets negated, like with the equip spell and stuff like that. So that's kind of a problem with that. Number two is Manadium, you can usually end on a counter trap as well. So the counter trap can negate that as well. And if they're going for like the VFD lock, you're not going to be able to Dark Ruler them anyway. So this is just kind of in a weird position right now. It's a good card without a doubt, but it's just in a weird position right now. I don't think it's the best in the world. I don't think it's the worst either. I'm going to put it in some side decks. Just kind of talking about it, I'll put it at the top of some side decks. I think it's a good card, but just not for this format right now. Pink or tops, most side decks. Pink is still good. The only problem with Pink right now is it's limited. That's really it. That's kind of the problem with Pink right now. But Pink is a cool card when you actually draw it. It's very, very good. It's going to be in most people's side decks. Very cool. But is it the best kind of like Pink or tops effects we have? No, I think there is a better one than it. But as of right now, it's going to be in most people's side decks. Emergency Controller. To be honest, don't think this card's that great. Really don't. I really don't think Econ is that great right now. Like, I know the Rescue player back in YCS Indianapolis won with this in the main deck, but like, I don't know, being you having to tribute a monster, I think Book of Moon is actually better than Econ. I think the Book of Moon play is way better than what enemy controller can do. This is just rough. I'm gonna put it in, you know what, I'm gonna put it in the main deck, I think. Because it's kind of like in those weird positions with Book and Econ where it's either you're playing them in the main deck or you're just not playing them at all. So yeah, that's where I'm going to leave it at. That seems weird because I think these two, like, I don't know. This feels weird. This feels weird to me. No, I have to keep it like that. It's just those two cards are just in a weird position right now. Like it's not the greatest, but it's not like, it's still decent to have these cards in your main deck, right? So like, I'm not gonna shit against it, but like, I think Econ might be a little better than Book maybe, but just the fact that you have to tribute a monster for Econ is where it gets weird. But I'm gonna keep it like that. Evenly matched, most people's side decks for sure. You might see it creeping in some main decks, but you have to be like wanting to go second with that, so it's going to be in most people's side decks. Evenly is absolutely really good, but it's not going to be in the main deck because you want to make sure you know you're going second when you side in the evenly match. Forbidden Chalice, it's niche. It's niche. I think there's better cards in it. It's cool. It's a really cool card, but there's just better cards in it. Like Imperm is better. Droplet, which we're about to get to, is better than it as well. I don't think it's the greatest in the world. Forbidden Droplet, just speaking of it, it's a good card. It really is a good card. I'm not going to deny it. Especially like if you're scared of the VFD lock as well. Like Droplet will come up for that. This is the weird one. I truly don't know. Like this feels like it's another card where you either main deck it or you don't play it at all, right? This feels like a waste in the side deck slot. I feel like this is one of those cards you either main deck or you just don't play at all. So it's going to be in some people's main deck. It's a very, very, very good card, but I don't think it's a side deck card. I think there are better side deck cards than Droplet, so it's either you're main decking it or you're just not playing it at all. The Kaijus are always going to be in most people's side decks. Not that many people are going to main deck it. It is a really good card, though, so we'll put it like at the top of the side decks, I think. It's just one of those things. It's very, very good, but it's not main deck worthy. It's going to be side deck worthy. Feather Duster. This is going to be in some main decks for sure. Just because it's searchable off Triple Tactic Thrust, and Feather Duster into a lot of matchups right now is very, very good. Being able to hit the Rescue matchup is very good this in the main deck. And the same thing if you're versing like Labyrinth, even like the tiers, even though they're going to plus off the tiers, being able to dodge the Soliac, the field spell and shit like that is going to be very, very cool. So I feel like this card is worth main decking in this format. Is it going to be in most people's main decks? I don't think so. I think it's just going to be in some people's main deck. It's either a main or side deck card, so that's like the cool thing about it. So you can either main deck it or side deck it depending on what you want to do, right? Herald the Abyss. It's going to be at the bottom of most people's side decks. I think it's only there because it is searchable off Triple Tactic Thrust, so it helps you in like the purely matchup and stuff like that, which is very, very, very cool. But I think there's just better options, like the book cards I feel like are better against purely than like Herald the Abyss is. This is only cool if they hard make Noir, and I think that's really it. Castria Fenrir. I think this card is insane. I think this is going to be in most people main deck. Fenrir is absolutely just a busted card. It really is. It really is a good card. But the problem is it's cool, but like Unchained, you're not going to be playing this in the main deck. But like, this is like a weird one. Like purely, absolutely main decks this card because being able to search another copy to use as discard fodder is always going to be insane, right? So it's going to be in most people's main decks. There are certain decks where you just can't play it, like Rescue is, for example, one of them. Or, well, Rescue can, but if they choose not to, right? I don't know. This feels weird. It depends on what you're playing as well. If you don't want to play like Fenrir and Nibiru in the same main deck as well. But I think Fenrir is good enough where it merits the most main deck in this slot there. Kurikara Divine Carnate. It's kind of fallen off. Honestly, it's not that great. I'm going to put it in some people's side deck. Like, it's not as good as it used to be just because the format has shifted to where you want to, like, back row is kind of the main game plan right now. You need to be beating back row and shit like that. This is cool against something like the Manadiums and the Infernoble Knights, but like, I don't know. It doesn't feel that great. I think Typhoon puts him a lot of work in those matchups anyways. So yeah, I think some side decks is probably better. It's fallen off a lot since Rise Heart has gotten banned. Lava Golem, it's going to be in some people's side decks. Not everyone can play it. Most decks need their normal summon, so that's the unfortunate part about Lava Golem. Lightning Storm is going to be in most people's side deck. This is why Cosmic Cyclone is kind of fallen off, is because something like Lightning Storm and Feather Duster are just better. They're also searchable off Triple Tactic Thrust as well. And right now, the Rescue need to get rid of their back row. Same thing with if we were scared of like the Unchained stuff as well, Tier Limit as well, Labyrinth as well. You want to have these back row haters as well for those matchups. So I feel like this is the reason why Feather Dust and Lightning Storm are just getting more play than Cosmic right now. Marionette Might, just don't. It's exactly for Unchained, and I don't even think it's that great against Unchained. Just don't play this card. Mind Control is kind of in the same position as Change of Heart, but it's kind of a little worse because Change of Heart, you can do anything with the card, while Mind Control, you can't. Santa Claus, it's niche. Like, a Kaiju is just better because if you're not able to out the Kaiju, at least they're not going to do anything. The Santa Claus gets them a draw, which sucks, so you don't want to do that. Like, it's only good in exactly purely if you're trying to go for like a Zeus line, but yeah, that's about it. I don't think this card is that great. Super Poly is insane. This is going to be in some people's main deck. Like, Tier Limit can absolutely main deck this. It's going to be not in most people, but I think Super Poly is cool. But the problem with Super Poly is a lot of people can play around it as well. We're just going to keep it like this. I think Econ's way down here, actually. Now that I'm thinking about it. Yeah, we're going to go with that. I think Super Poly is a little bit better than Droplet, though. Yeah, we're going to keep it like that. But Super Poly is absolutely insane. And one of the best cards for ever. Just being able to not be able to respond to it. The problem is, it's as of right now, it's not as great just because people can play around it. Triple Tactic Talent is absolutely going to be in most people's main decks. It's one of the best board breakers in the game right now. It also helps that Triple Tactic Thrust can search the talents as well. Absolutely such an insane card. It's very much live in like pretty much every matchup that you're going to be versing against. Absolutely worth playing this in the main deck as well. And it's pretty cheap now as well, thanks to the 25th anniversary collection reprinting this as well. Twin Twister, it's fallen off to niche. There's just better cards than it, especially with Thrust. Lightning Storm and Feather Duster are better than it, and this has to waste a discard as well, and it's not searchable off Thrust. I don't think that card's that great. Ultimate Slayer, it's niche. It's a cool card, but I think it's niche. Sphere Mode is, I think, worse than Golem. I'm going to put it in niche as well. We're going to put it like there, just because they have to have 3 monsters, while Golem only needs 2. And then XYZ Encore actually is surprisingly going to be in probably like the bottom of most people's side decks. Just because, I mean, some decks just die to Dweller. Like, this is obviously for the Cat matchup, but some people just, like, Unchained and Tier die to Abyss Dweller as well. So they want to have an out to the Abyss Dweller, and this is that out to Abyss Dweller. So this is probably going to be in most people's side decks. So yeah, that is my tier list. It's a little weird. I only had 2 in the most main decks, but that's just because I had the same thing for Handtraps, where there's only 2 of them in most people's main decks. And then after that, it's pretty much, I'm not saying all these are bad. It just depends on what deck you're playing, and 2, what you value the most, right? Like, for sure, you probably want to play Feather Duster, Lightning Storm, Thrust, and Talents for sure. There are going to be a lot of that there. But yeah, that is the tier list. I hope you guys did enjoy the video. If you did, leave a like and subscribe for more content on the channel, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.